Hi, it's Paul Banis, the GreatDad.com, and thank you very much for joining either the podcast or the YouTube version of the podcast. I'd really appreciate it if you took just a second to subscribe either on your podcast app or in YouTube. It doesn't really do anything. It's not going to send you any emails. It's just going to show up more often on your feed, and it does me a lot of good in terms of getting more exposure for this work I do to support dads. I'd also like to invite you to come to my page, GreatDad.com/go, if you'd like to discuss more about any of the issues that we are covering within the podcast, especially if there's any way I can help you to be a sounding board in your own struggles to be a dad and to be there for your family. So take a look at that. It also includes a link to my course on gratitude, where at GreatDad.com/gratitude with a offer to take that course for free. So see you in a second. Hey, it's Paul Banis with GreatDad.com here, and I'm doing my weekly series about modern fatherhood. And I'm always glad when I've got somebody who's a newish dad, because I tend to get a lot of dads who've got a few years under their belt. But I've got Tony Berardo here, who's got a 2-year-old, and that's only his latest claim to fame. So welcome, Tony.
Hey, thanks for having me, Paul. Appreciate it.
I'm really interested in talking to you because, let me put the microphone there so you actually can hear me. I'm interested in talking to you because you've been doing podcasting, and you kind of got, a lot of people do the kind of the reverse thing. They get off the corporate or the real 9 to 5 routine so they can spend more time with the kids. But you actually
That's right.
made that decision a while back to really focus on social media and your podcast and other
That's right.
things. Maybe we can start there. Is why how you got that self-awareness early on and figured that out.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, you know what? I mean, long story short, because it is a very long topic. I don't want to bore your listeners too much, but for me, I was in corporate America. I was stuck on the teat for man, my whole life. I mean, ever since I was 18, I worked for big corporations like LA Fitness and then Coca-Cola and Monster Energy. And after the pandemic happened, like a lot of people, I was affected. And
Mhm.
one of the companies that I worked for ended up laying me off because of budget cuts. Turns out a couple months later, the whole company went bankrupt. So it kind of worked out well. But during that time, it was kind of a wild time for me because I was so infatuated with like having a salary and being secure and 401k and all the stuff that we're told that you
Sure.
got to have. And I think the pandemic maybe taught us a lot of things. The one big thing is that we don't necessarily have to do things how they used to be done in terms of
Yep.
corporate America. I mean, you can make money just by using this little device, as we know, as we're having this conversation right now. So I think that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. But then also the big thing was we were trying to conceive for quite some time. So we went through IUI and
Oh, yes.
IVF for, man, almost 3 years. So during that time, obviously it's very stressful for both of us, but more so physically for my wife. She's going through all this crazy wild process. Me, I'm dealing with the stress of like trying to cope with her and be supportive, but also we spent in 3 years $250,000. So during that time, we spent so much money. And the next thing you know, I'm laid off.
Yeah.
So now we have to make the decision, well, I'm the bulk of the income. Are we going to put this on pause until I find a job? And I made the tough decision where I'm like, let's go forward. Let's go forward. Let's try to make money the best way we can, work for ourselves so we could both be stay at home. Thankfully, she's working for a corporation that is remote. But I wanted to open up my own company for quite some time because of my background in marketing and social media anyway, and these corporate gigs. So I was like, let me take that same knowledge that I know, let me see what I could do on my own. And that way, when we do get pregnant, because we were pretty optimistic, I'm still at home, wife's still at home. I'm working for myself. She's working for a company. So we got health benefits there. And that's like the perfect storm. And
Yeah.
thank goodness, a few months later, the last IVF took, which was our third IVF, our
Wow.
our third IUI as well. So that's a lot for people that don't know the process. So we got pregnant, and then I was like, okay, now I'm going to kind of focus a little bit more on what I want to do long term, which is start my own apparel brand.
Mhm.
And I wanted it to be dad centric for dads that kind of have these chaotic stories in this life because I realized when I became a father that I didn't know I wanted to be a father. Like I don't know if
Oh, yeah.
you could relate, but I never wanted to be a dad. Like it wasn't on my radar.
Right.
Quite the contrary, actually, which is something me and my wife argue with for a long time before
Right.
we became pregnant. But I was like, once I became a father and that day he had at the hospital, it changed me forever. And the fact that she was a girl, which is what I needed in my life, because she taught me so much already. And I know she's going to teach me a lot in the coming years.
Well, there's
So
a lot. There's a lot there. Maybe we should
yeah,
we should divide up some
please
of it.
go ahead.
But
Yeah.
because I'm interested, first of all, like you got ahead of the curve, and you were able to get off the corporate merry-go-round.
Yeah,
Um, I think it's more of that's almost more of a generational thing than a COVID thing. Is it's just people
probably.
don't have before you could have a career. God forbid you'd have a career for 40 years with the same company. It'd be boring
Right.
as hell. But at least it was there and it was held out for a lot of people as like, no, keep on staying here, and you get the gold watch and all the rest of it. Now that doesn't exist,
Yeah,
and you got to start thinking whether you're thinking like full time, getting out of it entirely, or somehow transitioning or finding a side gig or whatever. It's just part of life now, is it? I don't think there are any
totally.
any careers now that are even safe.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, and that's there's good and bad to that, obviously. And I think with AI too, in the next
Yeah.
5-10 years, it'll be a totally different, scary conversation. But we're very fortunate that we can work from home on things like that. So I'm
Did
very
you learn
blessed.
anything about your own personality having done a job that was more? I doubt if it was. It sounds like more was a managerial job, but it wasn't. It's not like a manufacturing job. But still,
Right.
going from that to your own thing, having to generate new business concepts, new business ideas, new revenue sources. Are there
Yeah.
things that other men who are in the same situation, maybe were at a job but wanting more time for family, should either watch for in their own personality or could develop in their own personality to be prepared for whatever that change is, franchise opportunities, podcasting, apparel
Sure.
brand?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a great question. And I think we all could relate. I would probably say 8 out of 10 guys that you talk to, they always feel they have this entrepreneurship
Yeah, we
mentality.
want to do it, but
We
we're not
want to
all
do it.
prepped
If
for it.
if I will say, if you have that feeling, just do it. Stop what you're doing, quit your job, figure it out. Stop going to Starbucks. There's a way you could save money, but figure out a way to do it, to go all in. Because I've always had thousands of people over my life have told me, you should open your own company. You should do marketing. You should. And a lot of my jobs, to answer your question, was in corporate America as either a manager or a trainer. I did a lot of public speaking. I did
Hmm.
a lot of marketing, a lot of like meeting with big brand deals and athletes, and
Right.
a lot of sit downs with Fortune 500 companies and people that made millions of dollars. And I was always like the type of guy where they thought I was the big wig, even though I wasn't. So I was really good at faking it, owning the room, having that mentality. And I think that helps. And I was
Hmm.
able to kind of like, I don't want to say mold myself, but I think over the course of time, I just got more tight when it came to that. And I really buttoned up my skills in terms of leadership, public speaking, conversation. That was a big thing. And that
It
kind
sounded like
of
you had some of those. You had a lot of the
correct.
skills that we think
Right.
people have. I mean, some people are like starry-eyed, I want to start my own thing, but they don't
Have it.
start with like social media. I mean, without having
Yeah.
social media these days, it'd be really hard to, or how to create a website, or even knowing your way around, a
Right.
conference room for that
Yeah.
matter.
And I think that was the thing where I figured out, okay, I have these skills. How can
Yeah.
I put that on paper and figure out what to do with the rest of my 5-10 years that I have in this business? And I was kind of thinking that from a corporate standpoint. But then once obviously I got laid off, then I was like, okay, I already have the skills. I've thought about this beforehand. I started my YouTube channel while I was in corporate America as like a side hustle, doing a lot of different things. And so I think that's another thing too, right? Where people could think about that entrepreneurship mentality. If you are working a 9 to 5 for a corporate, there's nothing bad in that. I mean, if you're happy, that's what works. But if you want something else, I would say spend weekends for a few months, right? So 8 weeks out of the month, every Saturday, Sunday, you're doing something, whatever your passion is, whatever you want to do for the long term, like on your deathbed, and someone asks you, what was your favorite career? Bleh. What was that answer? Start working on that now. And for me, it was social media. For me, it was marketing. For me, it was, being my own CEO. And
Did,
I was
did you
doing that on the
start with a
side.
did you start with a social media
Yeah.
uh like a
Yeah.
consulting gig before you started doing your own website
That's
and the
right.
podcast and the rest? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was actually at Monster Energy, and I was part of the marketing department, and I was a Southeast trainer for them too. So I was training a lot of guys and gals in marketing. And when I did that on the weekends, I would do like side gigs with either brand deals or consulting,
Sure.
teaching people other marketing and other social media aspects.
Great.
And, this was what, 8 years ago or something like that. So obviously social media has changed a lot. So I've continued to evolve, which part of my business now is still that, where I work with brands and I work with, people to actually get them good at social media and to help brands scale their content through video. So that's always something I've been passionate about and just continues to grow and evolve into that. But to answer your question, I mean, I did that at my other gigs, but I also did it on the side for myself. And I think that's the key takeaway for people that want to get something else is you got to do it on the side first. You got to see if it's something you can stick with, like podcasting, as you know, it's like do it on the side because you're not getting paid for this. See if you like it. And if you dig it and you're passionate about it and you love it, eventually you'll make money from it. And I've always believed that, which is why I've kind of been able to go all in after a couple of years of doing it.
Well, I love that part about like doing things like podcasting. It costs virtually nothing to get started, and you can get going. But also building on the skills that you have in your day job. If you like your day job but just don't want to be stuck in that corporate rut, why not transfer those skills in so many other ways? And probably best time of all times to be, because companies are getting rid of their full-time employees and going toward consulting people who will do on a project basis, and that's a perfect opportunity. So you've got this podcast, Humanity and Hashtags, which is more of a general interest. You focus on wellness and fitness, and I listened to a little bit of some political discussion, some just general topics.
Yeah.
And you're 270 episodes in long. That's a
Yeah.
quite a yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But we were talking for a minute about the fact that now organically it's shifting a lot more to fatherhood. So tell me a little bit about that, whether you want it to be a fatherhood podcast, or is that just happened to be kind of a leitmotif comes up in every interview you do?
Yeah, I say it's probably like a motif where usually most folks I talk to, kind of like yourself, whether you're a father or maybe, we talk about parenting as a whole.
And you interview men and women. So
that's right. Yeah. And, experts from, doctors in the longevity space to biohacking, and then, people that are creators and fellow entrepreneurs. And I think just overall, the humanity and hashtags kind of thing, it started because I wanted to talk to people that found the correlation between mental and physical health and social media, hence hashtags. So but in between that, it's interesting because usually parenthood does come up because that's such a huge topic, right? Where should kids have social media? Is there downsides to it? And obviously studies continue to come out where we talk about that stuff. So I think every guest that I have, we usually dip into the wellness space, productivity, physical and mental health, but then it always comes up if they're a parent where it's like, hey, what do you think about AI? Or what do you think about this? And so I really enjoyed it. I mean, I think I love talking about it. I don't know if I want every episode to talk about parenting because I know that's a very niche topic, but to me, it's true to me. So my podcast, I never script, kind of like yourself. I don't go over questions with the guest. I just like to press record. I don't edit. If it's a 2-hour podcast, 3-hour podcast, I just put it out there. If there's ums and ands, I don't cut that out. I just love having organic conversations with people. And I love being a father and I love talking about it because I think it's very unique and it took me a long road to get here, me and my wife. So I feel a lot of passion for it, and I think there's so much opportunity.
You talk about that road, because I know IVF and all the other things that people do it's a very, very well, it costs a ton of money, so it's freighted with all that stress around cash, but it's also it just takes a lot out of a lot of couples relationships. It puts so much pressure on everything. It's a hard road.
It is. Yeah. I talk a little bit about it here and there. It is kind of a deep topic. So I don't talk too much about it, but I've thought about it, and I thought about making some YouTube videos about it. And because it was probably the most, the 10 years I've been with my wife, we were the closest to not being happy. You know what I mean? And,
well, that's a nice way of saying it, because I know plenty of friends who, some people got divorced because they couldn't have a baby, and they kept on trying. And it wasn't the fact they couldn't have the baby. It was all the emotions around the effort and all the disappointment. It was just it's a lot for a couple to go through. And so I guess a question there is how much as a podcast host do you avoid talking, like you have a 2-year-old daughter? I mean, I really actively avoid divulging much about my kids. I talk in generalities about boys and girls, or maybe some vague references to things that they did. But obviously, a lot of people make a lot of money online by telling everything about everybody they know, all their
Yeah.
family, all the rest. How do you feel about that?
I'm against it for sure. I mean, unfortunately, we're living in a day and age to where it's my wife, her account is private, mine's not, mine's public. Usually, when I do share things and my daughter is in it, it's usually the back of her head, side of her face,
Right.
her hair's down, she's got a binky in or a hat on or something. Um, you know, but I'm also torn because I know social media, and I know if we were to have a conversation 20 years ago about like um, Facebook using our data, you'd be like, no, Tony, there's no way a company would do that.
They wouldn't even know how to do that.
They wouldn't know how to do that. It's crazy. But now we know they're literally stealing everything about us and selling it to the highest bidder, and they've made billions of dollars. Meanwhile, you could delete every photo on the planet that you posted, but it's going to be on the internet. So like, what does that mean for our kids? Well, if I never post my kid, okay, what if she goes down the street and she's 18 years old backpacking through Europe, and someone takes a photo and she's in the background? Anybody could take that photo and grab it and create an AI avatar of her. So if here's my attitude is I could get off board with it and I could stop doing things, but that means everyone has to stop, because it's so hard to tell my grandparents to stop posting photos and to get them to understand, not that they do that, I'm just saying hypothetically, it's such a weird conversation because I don't think people realize the danger that's going on. And similar to how we talk about Facebook 20 years ago, where nothing from the government was set into motion to protect us humans. Yeah. And now with AI, nothing is set. We're so behind. We're decades behind.
I worry about that because the people who are supposed to protect us, they didn't understand the internet, and they don't understand AI. And and even if they did, I don't know if you can trust them to do the right thing when there's so many economic interests along the way. So
and you have these companies lobbying for politicians. So it's like, why would they even want to? So then again, I go back to, okay, well, what if we get to a point to where there's going to be cameras everywhere? Because now there's cameras everywhere, right? Protecting our security, and ring cameras. And what if my kid's 5 years old, she's going trick or treating, now her face is on the ring camera? Well, you can easily grab her image from that ring camera, and there's companies that will convert that into disgusting photos. So there's just no way to avoid it. And I hate the fact that we're in this situation, but I'm also like, it's more stress, I feel like, if parents do that. I don't think you should be posting your kid's face every 20 seconds on social media, but that's your prerogative. But for me, I'm trying not to stress about it too much because I know it is a big deal, but it's also like I'm just trying to live my life,
Yeah.
And
that's the thing is, you talk to younger people. My kids are 21 and 25, and for them the battle's already lost. They're like, it doesn't matter. They used to get very upset with my wife because she would post on post without their permission on social media, and now they're just like, what the hell? It's the battle's gone. They've got
and it's so hard to believe too, right? Like unless you're on that side of the fence. I've talked to experts in the AI space about this in detail, and the stuff that goes down with kids is horrible. It's horrible, especially with like young kids, and it's hard to even grasp that that's possible, that there's humans out there that are going to take advantage of it. But then it's like, what does come from that? If your kid's 2 or 3 or 4 and the image is out there, okay, well, when she's 5, she's not going to look like that. When she's 10, she's not going to look like that. Is there harm? I'd say the biggest harm, it would just me looking at from a macro standpoint, is like if you document your kid from age 1 to age 17, there's a lot of data in there. And there's a lot of, maybe it's like her favorite places that she goes to, and you're posting that. And then that to me is the scary part about it. So I always tell people, like, if you're going to post and you're going to post a location, post it when you're at home. Take the photo, go home, and then post it. You never want to post live with your kids. That's my biggest thing, is like, because I'm more worried about the real threats, not like someone taking my kid's image and doing something crazy with it, because that's going to happen, I think, either way, unfortunately, with all of us. I mean, with my wife, someone could take an image and make a wild photo of her. And there's celebrities that are getting stolen, deep fakes. And it's terrifying, but it's also like, what can we do to fight? There's only so much in our control. And that's what's kind of disappointing about everything.
Disappointing but the world we live in.
That's right. Yeah. And the country, hopefully hopefully they get on it. But I think like Europe and Italy and some of these places have it right, where they don't necessarily use social media as much. And that's probably why they're not a thriving, innovative country.
Yeah.
But also, if you talk to every single person, I mean, everyone's probably pretty happy. I mean, they don't have a lot of complaints by not having Facebook or Instagram. Like, I don't think they give a shit about that. So I think they're pretty happy.
So the pasta sauce.
Right.
So you have this clothing that is tell me a little about the human dad concept for is that a hat, or does that go beyond the hat? And what's the meaning behind human dad?
Yeah. So I started that idea, that concept a little bit before, technically, when we found out we were pregnant, but because I've always wanted to start an apparel brand, but then I wanted to focus specifically on dads, and I got with a group of dads that we all kind of share the same values when it comes to parenting. And we realized that there's not a whole lot of apparel brands out there for dads that are like not number one dad, or
yeah, I know they're kind of goofy. Yeah, that way.
They're kind of goofy, which there's nothing wrong with that. Those are cute, but I wanted to create an apparel brand that was a little bit more relatable. And our thing is community first, apparel second, and just kind of creating a community of dads that embrace the chaos, embrace the flaws, because we all have them, including our kids and us dads specifically. But everyone's human. We're going to make mistakes, and it's okay that things are hard. And we even have a couple t-shirts and some hats that kind of embrace our motto of, if it's hard, that means you're doing it right. And I think that's kind of like our mantra is it's okay that things suck. And I'm wearing one of our hats right now where it's just the NASA logo, but it says dad on it. So just kind of some unique things that we're not really kind of showing off our branding. Like, this doesn't have human dad anywhere on it. It's just a hat that I think dads would relate with, and it's comfortable, and we can kind of relate to that stuff. So that's kind of how it was born. And we've grown a lot on TikTok. We're pretty new, about 6 months old. And it's become quite a passion of mine, mainly because it's become my whole personality, being a dad. So I was like, if I'm going to, be passionate about something, I'm not going to not be a dad. So I might as well go all in on this dad thing. So that's been a big part of my life right now.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Because I love the idea. I love this idea about the way you said about the if it's, what do you say, complicated, or if it's not complicated, it's not probably real. I think that's very true. I mean,
that's right.
If it's all simple, it means you're probably not present during, either emotionally
Correct.
or physically.
It's
interesting for I started this website GreatDad.com in 2006. So
oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
true.
2006.
Yeah,
that's great.
I mean, it's all 20 years. Yeah.
Good for you.
You couldn't have done a great mom site at that time, because women are just held to this incredible standard, whether it's because of society or what their own standard. Whereas I think men in general don't have that same embrace. Or just in your opinion, like, I don't expect it to be perfect every day. I don't expect their clothes to be perfectly matched, or all the things that a lot of women are just seem to be really victims of this higher than high expectation. And sometimes I think that's one of the beauties of the male-female relationship, or those two feminine masculine things, is that we complement each other in that way. Like, it's not that serious that she's not wearing her coat or whatever.
That's right. No, you're right, Paul. Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that was another motivation behind our brand, was you kind of look at the mom space, and they have everything for moms. There's shirts and hats and purses and totes and cups, and like everything is, and they deserve it, all of that and then some. But then you also look at dads, and you're starting to think, well, dads always have this thing to where they got to work 3 jobs and they got to support the family. And I think there's so much pressure behind a dad where they're not allowed to say that things are hard. They have to be kind of the strong thing. And to your point, it's a great contrast for the women, because women are more nurturing and they're more emotional in the best way possible. And, we need them to keep us grounded, but I think they also need us, because they need something strong and supportive. And sometimes that can be very stressful for men, dads in particular. And I've learned, just being a father for a couple of years, that sometimes I can't show my vulnerability to my wife. But starting this apparel brand has really allowed me kind of that opportunity, because I have hundreds of dads that are in our community that we share the same values, the same pressures, the same stresses. And you can't go up to the wife and say, hey, I'm dealing with XYZ, because she's dealing with 1,000 things that are way more important. But
it's complicated because they want you to be
complicated.
vulnerable and they don't want you to be vulnerable at the same time, right? And
That's right.
That's the
That's
trick.
right. And I think that's the internal struggle we deal with as dads. So it was important. It was important for me to
I think
express that.
that's really true in terms of the modern dad, because now you are expected to be more of a multidimensional human being than before. And now you're now expected to let out some of your emotions, but at the same time, you can't let out too many. And I don't know what it is in the male-female relationship, because we always think that it's some sort of competition or whatever. Like
Sure.
I'm more stressed than you are for different reasons or whatever. And I wish
Always.
you were
Yeah.
the same as I was, but I couldn't stand that either.
Right. Right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, we do. And I think that's why we fit, right?
Right.
It's that contrast, but it's definitely flip-flopped. And I think there's something beautiful about like women being empowered and want to be independent, but that also, you kind of look at like where our society is going. And while that's a beautiful thing, but now we're conceiving less children. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. People don't want to have kids because it is expensive, but women don't want to bear children because they want to be the CEO and that's a beautiful thing. And I think they deserve it. But also it's like, there's something so beautiful about being a parent that I feel like if you just suck on that corporate tit, to circle this around, whether you're a male or female, and you're sucking on, you're gonna regret it. And I think women had it pretty good when they weren't the CEOs, because coming from a guy that was in corporate America and was an inch away from being the CEO in a corporate America, I was the CMO, and to be in that level of authority and stress and all.
Oh yeah.
I will take being at home unemployed with my kid any day of the week. And there obviously is some cons to that, because you're like, well, how do you pay for food and all that? This is where it's 2025. You don't have to be the CEO of a big corporation. You can easily be both, and you could show up. And I think people will regret it if you don't go down the path of parenthood. Not that that's saying that's for everybody, but there is something very beautiful and unique about it. So.
Great. Well, I enjoyed this conversation. A lot of good thinking, and I appreciate the difference in generations of involved dads. It's really been a revolution in the last couple generations from where it was 50 years ago. My father was mostly absent, and that's not what I want for my kids. I did promise you I'd ask you one question about whether you have some advice for. You probably don't have any advice for dads of teenagers, but advice for dads who've just had a baby, who've got a baby on the way or whatever, or maybe going through IVF. I mean, that's what you really know some stuff about.
Yeah. I mean, if I could button it up into one sentence, I believe it was Jimmy Carr that said, the purpose of life is to enjoy the passage of time.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since I was a father, I really started thinking about that, specifically the day she was born. Mm-hmm. That just kept going through my head over and over, where I want to take a picture of this right now, but I didn't whip out my phone for, I think it was 2 days later in the hospital. And what I mean by that is enjoy the passage of time, which is worry about the present. It's not about being perfect. It's just about showing up. Be there in the moment. Don't whip out your phone. Don't talk to a friend. Be there with your kids, because as you know, as they get older, and I'm 2 years in, and I'm starting to understand that I could not imagine being away from her and missing those milestones. And I am proud to say I have not been away from her, not one day in 2 years, and I've never missed a milestone.
Not one day.
Not one day. And I haven't missed her getting up and walking. I haven't missed her crawling. I haven't missed her first word. I was there for everything, and I cannot wait for the future. And I think if you just sit back and enjoy the passage of time and just understand that time is the only thing that you can't control, where the moment is there. And if you miss it, that's it. You cannot go back.
But did you have to go through anything to understand that? Because I think a lot of people your age, and certainly I felt this way when I was your age, is that I heard these things like live in the present. I'm like, what the hell? What option do I have? It's the present, and I'm living in it, so I live in the present. But that's not the same as what you're talking about. How did you come to that, or how could you come to feel this deeply and understand it versus hypothetically?
Sure.
Or just just
kind of thinking about like a pipe dream. Yeah. I think it was the combination of a couple of things. Number one is the hard road that we
worked so hard
had to get to have the kid. And then just the moment she was born, my content corporate brain was like, oh, I need to take a picture. And then the other dude slapped me in the face and said, just enjoy the passage of time. You're never going to be in this moment again. Like, you might not ever have a kid. This is the only moment you're going to be in the hospital looking at your kid. And from that moment on, I just kept telling myself as a mantra where I just don't want to miss anything. And I just think it was dealing with all those hardships, which I think a lot of us can relate to, right? Like, usually through struggle comes success. And I think that's what happened. I think through the struggle of trying to be a dad, allowed me to successfully be a father. And now it's the only job I want to be good at. And I'm just working really hard to make sure that, that's what I'm known for. On my gravestone is like, he was the best dad. That's my goal.
Well, that's a top value of a lot of men that I coach is legacy. And I think legacy becomes more important as you go on, because you realize that you are leaving this legacy. Sadly, some dads don't realize that how much impact they're leaving behind, for better or worse, until later on, and it's harder to fix it than it is to show up every day like you do. That's fantastic.
Thanks,
Tony.
Paul.
Thanks a lot for spending time with me. I think you can find your podcast, Humanity and Hashtags, through I imagine all the
everywhere: YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all the jazz.
Yeah. Oh, you're on YouTube as well. There's a live version of your podcast, like mine.
Yeah, occasionally we'll go live, and then I repost every episode per week.
I don't go live, but a video version.
Yeah,
and then what is your actual website name?
So you can go to GDC&x to check out our apparel. And then I'm the Berardo on all social medias. So Instagram, TikTok, it's at the Berardo. But yeah, Paul, it was great talking to you, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot for joining me. Okay, Paul Banis with GreatDad.com. You can find my coaching offerings, including my free course for podcast listeners on gratitude, which is a key to everyday happiness. Okay, and that's at GreatDad.com/go. Okay, until next time. Remember, a strong family starts with you. Bye.
Love that.